Brandon Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I find it somewhat ironic to be speaking in this debate that's been brought by the opposition, bearing in mind I represent in Great Yarmouth one of the most deprived wards in the country. In fact, Nelson Ward is within the bottom 1% in England, particularly when you look at the lower layer super output areas. Great Yarmouth is a constituency, like many coastal towns, that suffered many, many years under Labour of being forgotten and left at the end of the track. In fact, one of the phrases people often use is that we're at the end of the line and the government forgot about us over the last 13 years. One of the problems was that there were too many areas where things were being done in isolation, working in silos with pet projects or specific government centrally led projects that didn't have enough focus locally and therefore were never able to have enough impact on the living standards generally of people either in my constituency or I would argue in other coastal towns and across our country. Let me give a very clear example of this. In Great Yarmouth, we were given some years ago, I think it was about £17 million, which had to be spent on improving the seafront. Our seafront now, I have to say, does look superb. The council have had it brilliantly set up and it looks fabulous, and I would recommend all members to come and visit and see the great improvement there. I would also recommend they don't step too far back from the seafront into Nelson or Southtown and Cobham to see those areas that were left behind. As industry faltered, as it wasn't supported, as the government drew jobs away from rural areas, including government public sector jobs, when it closed HMRC and set up the programme which has eventually led to the closure of our Coast Guard call centre. We need to have a government, as this government is doing, that actually sees things far more holistically and does not just focus in one specific area. And that's why I'm so supportive of what the government across all departments has been doing and how that can benefit constituents across our country and obviously from my selfish point of view in Great Yarmouth. Of course.
I wonder if my honourable friend experienced the same as I did in a similar coastal community in Hastings, which is during those Labour years a dramatic fall of average income against the rest of the country. In Hastings it fell by £100 a week per person during that period.
My honourable friend makes a very, very good point. And just to highlight that, to give an example, the UK average of gross weekly earnings is around £500 per week or £26,100, compared in Great Yarmouth with £420 a week or £21,900. In fact, 10% of our full-time workers have earnings of just £250 a week, around £13,000 a year. Now that is partly because we have seasonal employment. Nobody has done enough to deal with moving that forward until this government. And what this government has done in improving things for business is actually open up huge opportunities for people to have a better opportunity to earn, look after their families and raise their living standards. In Great Yarmouth, we have now got, in conjunction with the Waveney constituency and Lowestoft, an enterprise zone. The importance of an enterprise zone cannot be underestimated, because for us it's something that has been set out and led by business people in our area who know what they need to grow the businesses and attract them into the area to create jobs. It is the jobs that we need that are not seasonal, that are based on an industry in energy and engineering that has a long-term future. In fact, the renewable energy industry believe across our coastline there are contracts worth around £80 billion on offer over the next decade or two with oil and gas, decommissioning and renewable energy. That is business that will bring jobs to our area. The enterprise zone, focused on areas that have been designed and requested by local business and business leaders, is already attracting companies in. In fact, I think the first company to go into an enterprise zone is likely to be in Great Yarmouth. Scottish Power and Vattenfall have announced already a memorandum of understanding that alone could create hundreds of jobs in one spot in our constituency. And this is the kind of thing that will actually increase living standards. And we do need to have a more joined-up, holistic approach. Education needs to be joined into this to ensure that we get the skills right. One of the complaints I get from businesses, not just in my own constituency, but across the industry, is a shortage of people available with the skills required by engineering companies as well as the the energy industry. We need to make sure that we're matching that skill set to the job requirements that businesses have got. It was only just a few weeks ago I met work providers for the work programme, the prime providers, and one of them was saying to me that they're surprised that in certain parts of the country where they're expected to have an issue around finding jobs, actually their problem isn't finding jobs. Their problem is finding people who will apply for those jobs. In Great Yarmouth, we do have third and in some cases even fourth generation unemployed, and we do need over the next few years to change that culture, to change the programme so people want to aspire to get that first job and understand that that first step on the ladder is not the end of the story. And they shouldn't just stay on benefits or even, and I had a pupil in a school actually say to me their career ambition was to go on benefits because their parents were doing quite nicely like that. Thank you very much. Now that is not the majority of people, but we need to change that culture. So people look at that first opportunity, want to take the step on the ladder, because although that first job may not be their perfect job, may not be the perfect salary, it's that first step on the way to get to where they want to be and where they can be for themselves and for their families. And that is good for an entire community, because the more people who do that, happy to.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. On this specific point, would my honourable friend agree with me that the welcome expansion to apprenticeship schemes is giving not only young people that opportunity to get that first step, but to also learn applied real-life skills that businesses, not just in your constituency, but constituencies across the country, are crying out for?
I thank my honourable friend, and he's quite right. And one of the point I was just going to come on to, and he prods me perfectly in that direction, is to say the apprenticeships are a hugely important part of this and building that move towards living standards. In our constituency alone, we've already seen about a 60% rise this year in people taking up apprentices. And it does give an opportunity for people to get real-time work experience, to go out and have companies train people how they need them to be and to get them with that skill set ready to take on work. And one of the things that this government, I think, has done well and we can do more of is to highlight the value of apprentices. So people do not see university as the only and the primary option for them, but actually see apprenticeships and going straight into the workplace as a genuine, viable and valuable way to contribute to their own family as much as to society. Yes, happy to.
Thank you, Honourable Friend. Would you not agree that also the government's creation of the National Citizen Service Scheme, which is giving 16-year-olds the chance to train together and to work together and to develop projects together, is a surefire way of getting them the self-esteem and the confidence to take them forward into the workplace?
Absolutely. And what I would also say is we need to look at how we can get businesses growing faster and quicker to employ more people, because having people working in the private sector is without doubt the best way to raise the living standards of themselves and our country, because that creates more jobs and therefore lower costs to the welfare system in the first place. And that is hugely important. That's why I was so pleased yesterday to hear the Chancellor's comment around the fuel duty, the freeze, and not having the increase in January, and the work that's already been done to get rid of the fuel duty escalator, to get prices, although they're high, lower than where they would otherwise have been. That's important not just to commuters. No, I won't give away anymore. That's not important just to commuters and consumers who are running around trying to get their families, people, children trying to get to school, young people trying to go to work to get those job interviews, all of whom will be better off. But also to businesses who are in transport and logistics, who actually need that to be able to make more investment in their business, to grow their business, to create more jobs. That, along with the work this government is doing to ensure that we protect the elderly who have given so much already, to make sure they've got their winter fuel allowance, make sure that they get the right protection for their pension as we go forward, as was announced yesterday, does mean we're doing everything we can in the circumstances in which we inherited from the last government to provide for the people who need that most. But to me, the key is bringing this all together through education, with the welfare changes and the changes with welfare reform, and the work that's being done through business and the Treasury with tax and with apprentices. Actually, it's that holistic approach that can move our country forward and let us see real growth and improvement in the living standards that we all want to see.